This audio program is brought to you by WebQuarters. WebQuarters, making digital sense. DigEA, Digital Enterprise Architecture. Everything you need to know about digital business transformation. Chapter 1. What is digital business transformation? How to decode the digital jargon of IT professionals and avoid the risks of simplified analogies such as software in the clouds. Written and narrated by Alan O'Neill.
Once upon a time, a marketing term of digital business transformation was born. It was dreamt up by the digital marketeers in an attempt to decode the digital jargon of IT professionals. The marketeers creatively translated complex innovation into creative tales of analogy and metaphor to help everybody understand. The marketeers were creative, their interpretation had no boundaries. If tech confusion could be translated into marketing messages which helped to sell products and services, everybody was prepared to turn a blind eye. They told us tales of software that lived in the clouds and data that was stored in a warehouse on a farm. They told us tales of data lakes that have data streams which lead to bottling plants that keep our data clean and fresh. Now, some of us secretly knew that clouds, farms, warehouses, lakes, and digital business transformation were nothing more than imaginative concepts designed to help simplify and translate innovation into words and pictures that help make sense of the complex language of IT professionals. Leadership teams around the world chose not to spoil the tales and stories of the marketeers with the truth of confusion and complexity. So everybody turned a blind eye and the marketeers lived happily ever after. The end. It reminds me of the book The Emperor's New Clothes, written by Hans Christian Andersen. It's about two weavers who promise the emperor a new suit of clothes, which they say is invisible to those who are unfit for their positions, stupid, or incompetent. When the emperor parades before his subjects in his new clothes, no one dares to say that they don't see any suit of clothes on him, for fear that they will be seen as unfit for their positions, stupid, or incompetent. Finally, a child cries out, "But he isn't wearing anything at all." Now, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news or accused of bursting the digital marketing bubble. But I'm sorry, somebody has to say it. There actually is no software in the clouds. There's no data in the warehouse, nor in the lake or in the farm. And as for digital business transformation, well, believe me, it's the most misunderstood and misused marketing term, which is responsible for a tsunami of digital confusion. Throughout this book, I'll explain my no-nonsense, truthful explanation of what really is digital business transformation. And I promise you, it won't start with once upon a time. And by the time we're finished, you'll totally get it. I find it quite surprising how executives the world over choose to turn a blind eye to the creative analogies such as software in the clouds and data lakes. I find it even more surprising how leadership teams of the world's leading enterprises are putting themselves under so much pressure to embark on a journey of digital business transformation, fueled by a fear of being left behind. Digital business transformation is a marketeer's cocktail of social proof, served with a fear of loss and a dash of reason to act. If enough companies are considering digital business transformation, it must be the right thing to do. The key question is, what is digital business transformation? Between February 2016 and February 2017, more than 12 million unique internet searches by C-level executives looking to answer the following questions were made. What is digital business transformation? Who is the leading company to advise on digital business transformation? And how do we actually do it? Many enterprises are setting up digital business transformation teams whose first initiative is to answer those three questions. There can be no doubt that the rhetoric and mirage of sales marketing spiel surrounding the term digital business transformation is leaving board members around the world in a state of confusion. I actually find it quite alarming how some of the world's so-called leading system integrators, or industry analysts, I call them the sea whisperers, can write fluffy white papers on the subject matter of going digital. You can tell by reading them. Most of the commentators are struggling to spell digitalization, never mind explain it. So with all the confusion, why do executives cling on to the term digital business transformation, and why do they accept the analogies and metaphors such as cloud, farm, warehouses, and data lakes? I actually think it's a lot to do with the amount of pressure business leaders are under to identify and create that all-important competitive edge. Everyone is looking for the silver bullet, the digital solution that will help optimize business, people, process, and technology. Executives are hoping that digital business transformation is that silver bullet, just like they hoped enterprise resource planning, or ERP, software was the one-size-that-fits-all solution. And was it? Well, according to most analyst firms, approximately 75% of all ERP projects fail, despite the industry's focus on delivering better customer service and advanced IT systems. After 20 years of my own ERP experience, I have to say there actually is no silver bullet. There are no shortcuts in rolling out any enterprise software, be that on-premise or in the globally accepted cloud. It's no different than building a house. The strength and success of the design and the build stems from the quality of the planning and the architecture. It's all about your preparation. There is some good news. I'm going to share with you a tried and tested digital blueprint, and I'm going to share the tools, methodology, and approach that will help you and your colleagues completely answer the question, what is digital business transformation? And how do I do it? I won't patronize you with tales of clouds, farms, warehouses, or lakes. Instead, I'm going to use plain language and examples throughout this book that will make perfect sense to all members of the board, IT professionals, and all employees of your enterprise. Before we get started, I think it's only fair to acknowledge the value that marketeers have added to the technology industry. I'm the first to say that innovation at times is so complicated, it needs creative interpretation. And from my experience, technology innovators are not always the best at articulating their advancements or aspirations. Marketeers often create more questions than answers, which I think is a good thing, as long as the executives invest time to answer them. If they don't, then they are left uninformed, which very often creates risk caused by the unknown void between complexity and simplicity. As long as we have technical innovators, we'll need marketeers. Also, we'll need to effectively bridge the void of complexity and simplicity. It's the reason why Steve Wozniak of Apple and why Paul Allen of Microsoft needed the interpretation and communication skills of both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Both partnerships prove that back-office technologists need center-stage entrepreneurs and marketeers to translate their innovation and vision into a language and concept that we can all understand. Now, I might not have the aesthetic skills that Jobs had, or the computer engineering background of Bill Gates, but I can assure you of this: I have spent over 20 years interpreting the aims and aspirations of CIOs and IT professionals around the world. And I can tell you now, it's not easy understanding them. I'm sorry, my techie friends, but it is a fact. You guys are not always the best at explaining things in plain language. I've lost count of the number of times I've had to slowly decipher what on earth an IT team are trying to explain, never mind achieve. The major challenge with translating complex innovation of IT professionals into simple analogies and metaphors occurs when it all goes wrong, as it often does. When the cloud-based CRM implementation is a disaster and fails to go live, we can't apologize to the board and tell them, well, it was due to bad weather in the clouds. Or when the big data initiative fails, we can't tell the leadership team our data lake was contaminated. We could, but it would probably be the last thing we explain to them. Seriously. This is the problem. IT professionals make it far too complicated and boring. Marketeers, too simple but very interesting. With both explanations, a leadership team are not fully equipped or prepared with the aims and objectives of the project. And this results in boards putting blind faith in IT professionals because the marketeer's interpretation made some sense. This is the very reason why I've written this book and the total motivation for inventing DigEA, Digital Enterprise Architecture. I believed somebody needed to bridge the gap between complexity and simplicity so that everyone in the enterprise could understand the project goals and objectives. Over the years, I've found it incredibly beneficial to illustrate and sketch out the problems and the solutions on large A3 sheets of paper and then play back to the audience what I think I've just heard, just like an architect does when taking a design brief. These doodles became a framework which grew and grew, and after several years my team and I realized that we'd actually built the answer to digital business transformation. The amount of times we've had eureka moments during such digital workshops where the penny actually drops. Yes, Alan, that's precisely what we've been trying to explain to the board. It's been our clients who have suggested that we share this with the world, and I sincerely hope it adds a ton of value to you and your enterprise. Documenting and sketching the ideas of some of the best brains in the business and technology has become my life's work. And after 20 years of interpreting innovation, I've become pretty good at it. And I'm delighted to share with you my blueprint called DigEA, Digital Enterprise Architecture, the answer to digital business transformation, as it's called today. The guiding principles of everything I'm about to share are built on common sense and keeping everything simple. If you're about to embark on a journey of digital business transformation, then everyone in your team should be bought into it and understand what it means to them and the enterprise. Investors, shareholders, directors, managers, and even Sandra in accounts payable. Every one of your employees should understand the journey of digital business transformation and know what it means to them. Balancing stakeholder aspirations can be very challenging indeed, and I have refereed many boardroom fallouts. Typically, the CIO is accused of wanting to do everything with technology, whilst the CFO is accused of not wanting to do anything. And the poor CEO is caught in between the crossfire, wondering what to do for the best. Does this sound familiar? Well, don't worry. I've been there 100 times before, and I want you to allow me to be your trusted advisor when it comes to digital business transformation. I want to teach you everything I know to ensure we set the right coordinates before setting off on our journey of digital business transformation. So, what is digital business transformation? In order to answer this question, I need to give you a quick history lesson which has remarkable twists of fate, you could argue, have both shaped and stifled innovation in our lives for more than 100 years. It begins with a gentleman by the name of Charles Babbage. Babbage was born in England in 1791 and was a mathematician, philosopher, inventor, and mechanical engineer. He originated the concept of digital programmable computers, which in effect was the world's first mechanical calculator. Babbage invented and built something called a differences engine, and in doing so, many say he laid the foundations which helped to build the world's first computer. Babbage's inspiration to build his differences engine came from French inventor Joseph-Marie Jacquard in 1804. Jacquard had built an automated weaving loom that operated by using a chain of cards known today as punch cards. The punch cards were laced together into a continuous sequence which automatically controlled the sequencing of hundreds of needles as they wove in and out to a mathematical algorithm, which created tapestries in a fraction of the time it took to weave the same tapestry manually by hand. The loom was faster, production costs were cheaper, and the finished product was of a higher quality. With investment from the UK government, Babbage duplicated the concept of sequential punch cards using Jacquard's chain of cards laced together, and in doing so created a mathematical algorithm. However, instead of controlling needles, Babbage built his differences engine to control and calculate analog numbers consisting of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, which he converted into ones and zeros, known today as digits, which is where the term digitize originates from. In effect, Babbage built the world's first calculator using digitized punch cards, which controlled his mechanical differences engine, and in doing so became the pioneer of the digital age. Ada Lovelace, or Ada, Countess of Lovelace, was born in England in 1815. Ada Lovelace was the only legitimate child of the poet Lord Byron and his wife, Anna Isabel Milbank, Lady Wentworth. Ada Lovelace was also a mathematician and a writer. She was consumed by the potential of Babbage's work and eventually became an acquaintance and a good friend to Babbage. Using her gift for words and mathematics, Ada Lovelace helped Babbage to document and articulate his inventions. She organised, documented and interpreted his ideas, as Babbage was particularly poor at doing so. Lovelace recognised that Babbage's next mechanical invention, which he called the analytical engine, had endless applications beyond pure calculation. She had the foresight to predict that the analytical engine could one day compute letters and symbols, music, and art. She wrote a blueprint of the potential of such a computing machine in order to secure further funding from the UK government, and in doing so, Ada Lovelace became the first person on Earth to describe and document what we know today as the computer. Unfortunately for Babbage, Lovelace did not possess the entrepreneurial persuasion or communication skills of Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. The £17,000 of government funding ran out before completing the build of the analytical engine, and they failed to convince the government to invest another penny. And as a consequence, they fell short of building the world's first mechanical computer. Ada Lovelace died in 1852 at the young age of 36, and sadly, with her died the interpretation and blueprint of Babbage's innovations. Babbage and Lovelace's blueprint and engines would lie dormant for nearly 100 years until they were used to influence the collaborative code-breaking efforts of many digital pioneers, including Alan Turing during the Second World War. Babbage and Lovelace's blueprint actually worked. They were indeed onto something, and their innovation was undoubtedly used to influence the design and build what became the world's first general-purpose computers in the 1940s. How remarkable! Inventions and innovation that had been proposed to the UK government back in 1828, over 1 century earlier, would play a pivotal role in building the world's first computer. I think this is a fascinating chapter in our history and teaches us many valuable lessons that can serve us today. It also begs the question, where on earth, or even outer earth, would the human race be today if Babbage and Lovelace had secured further UK government funding? Would we be 100 years further advanced than we are today? And what would that mean to our digital innovation? When you understand the speed and advancement of innovation today, both at home and at work, and you consider that in 1991 there was only one website in the world. That's right, just one website. When I started my own business in 1997, there were still only 1 million websites. And now, 20 years on, there's over 1.2 billion websites in the world. Think of the data involved in powering this. How many bits and bytes are we talking? Digital business transformation stood still for 100 years, but be under no illusion. It started in the 1820s. The key lesson and takeaway here should be that any form of digitalization is a continuous journey of progression and collaboration. It's not an event. It's not a project. It's a roadmap of optimization. I caution that with any form of digital business transformation, you should carefully consider the impact and change management of an enterprise's most important assets, your people. Amongst the many online digital debates where forums debate, what is digital business transformation? A question often crops up. Is it digitize or digitalized? The simplicity of this question and the answer demonstrates the tsunami of digital confusion created by the term digital business transformation. The confusion is not helped by the overwhelming number of organizations who are jumping on the digital bandwagon by prefixing the word digital in the front of a wide range of random products and services. No wonder people are so confused. Well, let me try and clear this up. It's digitalization. It's not digitize and it's not digitized. Digitize and digitized is what Babbage did when he converted analog numbers, 0 to 9, into 1s and 0s. Since then, innovation has converted words and pictures into digital bits and bytes, just like Ada Lovelace predicted. Digitized uses ed, which forms the adjective and denotes the completion of something. I have digitized my old pictures. They are now on the computer. Digitalization uses ation, which forms the noun and denotes the action or journey of something. Digitize is what we have done. Digitalization is an ongoing journey of optimization. It is what we are doing. I also prefer digitalization rather than the term digital business transformation, and here's why. Transformation is defined as a sudden dramatic change in something. And what is the definition of sudden and dramatic? Well, sudden is defined as something occurring or done quickly and unexpectedly or without warning. Dramatic is defined as an event or circumstance sudden and striking. Now, I've had the privilege of working with some of the best brains in the business and also technology for more than 20 years. And I can tell you now, the smartest people I've ever worked with like to do nothing that causes a sudden, dramatic transformation with their business, people, process, and technology. Why would you? Can I make a suggestion? Can I suggest we leave the term digital business transformation with the marketeers? And for those of you who'd like to embark on a controlled, transforming journey of digital optimization, we'll use the term digitalization. Sound good? Here's my definition of digitalization. Digitalization is the process of analyzing and improving the performance and productivity of a partially optimized business, with the purpose of transforming its people, process, and technologies into a fully optimized digital enterprise. And here's my objectives for digitalization. 1. Digitalization should help increase your enterprise's revenue and profits by identifying, attracting, winning, and retaining more of the right business. 2. Digitalization should help increase your enterprise's output and productivity by maximizing the potential of your people. 3. Digitalization should help increase your enterprise's performance and throughput by improving and optimizing processes. 4. Digitalization should help increase your enterprise's efficiency and automation by the implementation of innovation and digital technology. So who do you think is interested in digitalization? Well, we know there's over 100 million registered companies in the world today, and without knowing most of them, I think it's safe to assume that every single one of them would like to improve revenue and profits, output and productivity, performance and throughput, and efficiency and automation. I think everyone is trying to do more with their business, people, process, and technology. The world is trying to do more with less, and has been doing so since the beginning of time. We live in a world of 7 billion people, and I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of able-bodied adults will go through life trying to do more with less. It's inbuilt human nature. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first level of need is self-actualization. Self-actualization refers to a person's desire to achieve their full potential. Maslow describes how we desire to accomplish everything that we can. We strive to become the most or the best we can be. Digitalization, in my opinion, is about optimizing your business, people, process, and technology, and creating a digital enterprise to become the most or the best your enterprise can be. So far in this chapter, we've had tales, history lessons wrapped up in some pretty deep definitions. I'd like to share with you one of the most rewarding experiences I've had in business, which I believe describes the journey of digitalization perfectly. This was a real-life situation of a client I worked with who engaged our firm to help them improve the performance and productivity of their partially optimized business, with the purpose of transforming their people, process, and technologies into a fully optimized digital enterprise. Just one slight challenge. Nobody really wanted to. It's a story of a successful privately owned aviation company founded by one gentleman in 1970, the year I was born. From a pickup truck and a snap-on toolbox, this entrepreneurial founder built one of the largest and most respected aerospace companies in North America, which today employs 1,000 skilled personnel who provide multiple aerospace service offerings, including maintenance, repair, and overhaul, MRO, which in plain English means they service planes, big planes, such as Boeing 737s. They had been recently awarded a $1.77 billion contract to lead a team of Canadian companies to provide primary flight training for the Canadian Air Force, and they knew they had to embrace digitalization. I was invited to help them with a failing implementation of their ERP system. It was the usual story. They were over budget, had missed virtually all scheduled go-live dates, but it was nobody's fault. My client was in disputes with the software vendor, their external consultants, everyone was blaming each other, and progress was grinding to a halt. The founder and certain board members were not happy. They built this incredible business without any ERP system. The project had burned too much cash, and it had been made very clear to the IT team in no uncertain terms, if they were not live with the ERP system across all 18 sites within the next 7 months, heads would roll. They'd managed to go live in no sites in 3 years, and so 18 in 7 months was sounding a bit ambitious, putting it mildly. The heads that expected to roll invited me in to see what our organisation could do to help them. I'll never forget the experience. I flew into their head office in the most beautiful city in a valley situated in Canada. The CIO's brief was brilliant. The founder doesn't like or trust consultants like you. And he also doesn't really understand the value of the ERP technology. He's built this business without ERP systems and considers most of the things we in IT propose to be a complete waste of time and money. The CIO went on to explain that most of the leadership team, bar a few executives, have pretty much the same opinion. They also don't like or trust management consultants like me, and they too don't really like or understand the ERP technology. In fact, it turned out that pretty much everyone in the business had the same opinions about management consultants and ERP technology. He went on to explain that the founder had invested enough already. He won't spend any more on this project. He believes he's wasted enough already. Perfect. I'd flown 18 hours on 3 separate flights to learn that the entire organisation wouldn't like me or trust me, that most people in the organisation don't really like or understand ERP technology, and there is no budget, no appetite to invest further, and we need to be fully live in 18 sites within 7 months. I can't recall precisely what I said out loud. I guess I must have said something encouraging. I know what I was saying internally, and it included a few expletives. I always try to look for the positives in something. And I thought to myself, well, I'm here. I've been engaged to conduct a 3-day pulse on-site assessment, and I was actually quite looking forward to learning all about MRO in the aerospace industry. We started with a tour around the facilities. As we're walking over to the impressive hangars, I see a Boeing 737 tail just peeking out, and with the smell of the aviation fuel in the air and being so close to the 737, I have to admit, I'd forgotten all about the issues, and I was really quite looking forward to learning how you go about servicing a 737. Suited and booted, equipped with hard hat, protective glasses over my own glasses, and a high-vis jacket, looking like a complete idiot, the CIO walked me around the dismantled 737 and introduced me to several people. They were nice enough, not as scary as I'd expected, but after a few introductions, it became very clear. These people had been with the company for many years. I shared this observation with the CIO. He agreed and explained that most employees are like family. They've literally grown up with the business. Many had been there since they'd left school or college. It's part of the problem, he explained. People don't like change here, and we don't like to push them too hard with new technology, as we can't afford to lose people. It was clear the business had a grey hair issue, a significant change management issue, and the CIO had no real sponsorship from the founder or the leadership team, whose guiding principles seemed to be, don't upset the staff or the union. The CIO led me up some stairs to the doorway of the 737. Where a senior person was carrying out what I learned was non-destructive testing on the floor plate of the 737. They explained they were testing the floor plate because it receives a lot of wear and tear from the heels of passengers as they board the plane. They pointed out how passengers pivot on the spot to the right or left as they board the plane. This impacts the floor plate. I was intrigued. I asked the CIO if I could ask the gentleman a few questions. Yes, of course. He asked him to briefly stop what he was doing, as I had a few questions for him. I politely introduced myself in an awkward British accent. I explained who I was, and I'd be grateful if he could walk me through the process of what he was doing. He didn't look very impressed and showed me a piece of paper, the work order that sets out the activity he needs to perform. I'm doing an NDT of the floor plate, he explained. I asked him what NDT stood for. He glanced over at the CIO with a look of, "Who the hell is this guy?" And without looking at me, he said, with a tone of impatience, "It stands for non-destructive testing." Realizing that I was interrupting his work, I quickly asked him why he was carrying out an NDT. Because it's a requirement of the service. You could tell he'd already had enough of me. "I appreciate that, sir, but what are the possible outcomes of this test?" He then explained the millimetre depth of the acceptable and unacceptable tolerances of the test, which would indicate if the floor plate needed replacing or not. Sensing he wanted to get on, I was tempted to thank him and leave him to it, but I was interested in the process, and so I continued. "So when you finished your test, what do? How do you record and report the test results?" Unimpressed, he explained that he writes up his findings on the work order, which takes 5 to 10 minutes. He then hands the work order to an administrator who types up his notes, which takes another 5 to 10 minutes. "Does she ever struggle reading your handwriting?" "Sometimes." "Do you ever lose work orders?" "Not very often." He looked at me with a stern expression and asked me how long I'd been in the aviation industry. I looked at my watch and said jokingly, "About 45 minutes." That didn't go down well. "Well, I've been in the industry since 1970. I know why you're here, but I'm sorry, I don't have time for all these questions." I told him I was actually born in 1970, which thankfully got a smile, so I used this glimmer of rapport to ask a few more questions. What does the administrator do with the typed up report in the scenario that the floor plate needs replacing? He explained that she sends an email to the representative of the customer whose plane it is, to inform them, and then prints out the report and puts that into the rep's bundle for review the next time they're on site. And how often is that? Every couple of days. He went on to explain that she also emails stores to check if they need to order the part, and the report also goes to his line manager because the work order activity will stop until decisions have been made about where the part will be sourced. "What sort of decisions?" I asked. "Sometimes the customer may source their own parts cheaper. Sometimes they'll have one in stock. If not, we'll have to order it." "How long does this take?" "It can take a few days." I asked the CIO how many work orders are handled in this way and how many work orders are involved in a service of this nature. Most of them. I think this service has well over 1,000 work orders. I then said without a pause for breath, "What if I gave you a rugged iPad, which you could hang up, positioned so you could video record the results of your NDT? Once finished, you would provide a quick commentary, giving your name, plane type, work order number, and the activity you've just performed, along with the outcome. Once the recording is complete, you hit send. The video is sent immediately to the rep of the customer, your line manager, and parts, and at the same time checks every part supplier in North America for the cheapest floor plate. That information is automatically sent to the customer for their review. You'll never have to write another work order again. Decisions can take minutes or hours instead of days, allowing you to carry on with tasks instead of wasting your time writing." The CIO and the guy looked at me in amazement. "Is that possible?" said the CIO. "Everything is possible in the digital age." "Yeah," he said, "but I don't think they'd invest in iPads." They would if they knew how much it was going to save them and make them. Over the course of the next 3 days, we identified hundreds of ways of saving time and money by transforming business, people, process, and technology into a fully optimized digital enterprise. The results were off the chart. We converted a snap-on, grey-hair culture who were totally opposed to ERP and digitalization into a digital team and digital enterprise who totally embraced the ERP system. When we checked what they'd done with the design of the common solution, they were actually nearly there. It just needed some tweaks and rolling out. We went live in all sites in less than 12 months, not 7, as we all agreed that 7 months would put too much pressure on business as usual. We shaved thousands of hours off the standard time to service a 737. We dramatically reduced maintenance costs. Clients were happy to pay the same fixed price. Why? Because airlines don't make money whilst their planes are sitting in hangars. Reduced days in the hangar results in more revenue and more profit for our clients' clients. Reduced time and costs resulted in more profits for our client. Today, our clients run a fully optimized, self-sufficient digital enterprise, and there is no doubt that digitalization has transformed their business, their people, process, and technology. Summary of key messages from Chapter 1. 1. Marketeers interpret the complexity of innovation with simple analogies and metaphors of clouds, lakes, farms, and digital business transformation. 2. This leaves executives uninformed, and very often there's significant risk caused by the unknown void between complexity and simplicity. 3. When technology projects go wrong, as they often do, we can't use the simple analogies and metaphors of clouds, lakes, farms to explain what's gone wrong. My lake was contaminated. Doesn't work. 4. Although we know this, it appears that knowing is not enough, and executives from enterprises around the world choose to turn a blind eye to the void between complexity and simplicity. 5. Business transformation is just one quartile of digital business transformation. We should be focused on business, people, process, and technology transformation. 6. The digital era was pioneered by Charles Babbage and supported and interpreted by Ada Lovelace, the Wozniak and Jobs of their time. Babbage's difference engine and proposed analytical engine contributed to the blueprint and build of the world's first computers. 7. Innovation and digitalization is a journey. It took the world 100 years to wake up to the possibilities and inventions of Babbage, articulated in the first computer white paper written by Ada Lovelace. 8. Babbage invented the difference engine, and in doing so pioneered the concept of digitize, converting analog numbers, words and pictures into ones and zeros known today as bits and bytes. It's where the term megabytes comes from. 9. Digitize should not be confused with digitalization. Digitalization is the process of analyzing and improving the performance and productivity of a partially optimized business, with the purpose of transforming its people, process, and technologies into a fully optimized digital enterprise. 10. More than 100 million enterprises around the world want to embrace digitalization. Wanting, knowing is not enough. Having the capacity and capability and experience is the key to analyze, digitalize, and optimize your enterprise. 11. anything is possible with today's digital innovation. Anything the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. If you can think it, you can do it. However, innovation needs interpretation, and be careful about change management. 12. The aerospace colleagues oppose the journey of digitalization. However, even the most opposed embrace digitalization because decision is always easy when value is clear. 14. DigEA, or Digital Enterprise Architecture, is the blueprint for implementing digitalization into any enterprise. DigEA will provide the enterprise with the tools, methodology, and approach to ensure digitalization is a successful journey of adoption, not a sudden destination of dramatic change and transformation. So, what is DigEA, or Digital Enterprise Architecture? Please enjoy Chapter 2.
This audio program was brought to you by WebQuarters. WebQuarters, making digital sense. If you enjoyed this and would like to hear more, visit WebQuarters.com and pre-order a copy of DigEA, Digital Enterprise Architecture by Alan O'Neill. The content of this recording is copyright of WebQuarters Group Ltd. 2017. All rights reserved. No part of this recording may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means, including photocopying, recording, or other electronic mechanical methods, without prior written permission of WebQuarters Group Ltd.